public safety to order, and the first thing I'm going to do is explain a technical oddity, and that is that three of us up here are electeds, and so there's sort of a bifurcated nature to this committee, and that means that we have a first item up, which is an action item, and you're all welcome to be part of the discussion about it, but at the end of the day, it's going to require a vote, and it's going to be a vote of the three of us who got elected. First item, is it Asante going to come up and discuss this?
Jessica.
Oh, Jessica. Thank you. So Ms. Smith, who's head of Mobile GR, is here, and and to give a little bit of background so she can skip past this maybe, just so to refresh everyone's recollection, we have a policy concerning use of drones, and in order to use any drones in the community, we have to, there's a process to go through. And so Mobile GR is here with a request for drone use.
Mayor, do we need a motion first for the resolution?
Probably do.
Okay, I'll
so
make the
moved?
motion.
So moved. Or support.
One or the
There
other.
you go.
There we go.
Thank you. Got motion and support.
Thank you very much for that introduction. I am Jessica Smith, the Mobile GR Director, and I have with me here the project manager for this specific project that we're looking for your resolution to set a public hearing on a type of data collection technology that we are looking into. I also have Brandon Davis from OPA OEE, all the things, and we're going to help walk you through the policy that the mayor just mentioned. So today we want to look over that OPA surveillance policy overview just a little bit to give you all a reminder of what that is. Our purpose today, we are seeking that resolution from you all to set a public hearing on this particular technology use for data collection. And we're going to give you a bit of a project overview where we're going to use this data, and then propose the operational management protocols. We're going to walk through how we are abiding by the surveillance policy, and then also give you a few examples of that data and what it looks like. And then finally, again, request that, that date to set a public hearing.
Mr. Davis.
Thank you. Good afternoon. So I'm standing here today to give an overview of the city surveillance policy, which is Administrative Policy 15-03. That 15 means that the city first had a surveillance policy in 2015. Our policy at that point spoke to the fact that in order to acquire surveillance equipment, it had to come before the city commission. But there was not a lot of regulation about what that looked like. And infringement, it could cause on the rights of others, or a lack of infringement, which I'll say after reviewing this is how I see this particular use of the surveillance equipment, and they lay out the full plan of what that would look like. The request before the Public Safety Committee is to decide to allow there to be a public hearing. So just like other items that come before City Commission, then goes on, this body would vote. The elected members of this body would vote to decide whether or not that could happen. After that happens, then it will be set for a public hearing. When it's set for a public hearing, that will come before the City Commission. So the City Commission will get to hear the feedback of community members. After that public hearing happens, the next step, so there's lots of steps in this process. This is the city really making sure that we're getting community input. But the next step is then for it to go to the fiscal committee with the actual request to purchase, or essentially spend the money needed to do that next step of the process. After that permission is granted, then the department is able to move forward with doing that. So that's an overview of how it works.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brandon. Okay, so we're going to get into exactly what we just talked about. We want to talk today about the operational protocols and the data management protocols related to the use of this technology, and then also really elaborate and clarify on how proposed activities will be in accordance with that surveillance policy. And then finally, again, that request that you all set a public hearing to move forward with the process. I'm going to turn this over to Max Dillevin. Max is one of our transportation planners at Mobile GR. You may see Max talking a lot at the Mobile GR Commission about the DASH. He takes care of the data and operational program that the DASH is, your downtown circulator. And he's also been helping out with this parking investment strategy, which is the project where we're looking to use some of this technology. All right.
All right. Thank you, Jessica. And thank you, committee. So the background of this parking investment strategy is it's really an effort to get our arms around provide a comprehensive inventory of all the parking that is within our downtown area, whether that's public parking, privately owned, restricted to certain users, event-based parking, et cetera. We want to understand the capacity and utilization of those facilities so we can start to project current demand as well as future demand if and when large transformative projects come to our downtown. We are all aware that parking is a very key component of the downtown ecosystem. They require very large investments that have to be taken with a high degree of consideration. And our goal is to produce strategies to ensure that we have a sustainable parking system. So next step, I'll go through the proposed data collection methods for this particular request before you today. We have contracted with 2 consulting firms to assist us throughout this parking investment strategy. They're named OHM and Quantify out of Detroit. They are proposing to help us collect some of our on-street parking utilization through overhead imagery. That would allow us to determine parking capacity, total utilization of how many cars are using our on-street parking spaces at various times of the day, days of the week, months of the year. What that turnover is and how long folks are staying in these parking facilities. They propose to use small unmanned aerial systems, i.e. drones, designed and optimized for mapping purposes. The idea is that these drones would fly about 300 to 400 feet above ground level with high resolution imagery, take photos of the space below. That aerial imagery would be collected kind of at 4 different periods throughout the day over a 2 to 3 week period. And the limitations of this data that I want to really highlight is that we won't be collecting any identifiable features such as license plates, vehicle identification numbers, bumper stickers, etc. This would be the type of information that would be collected with a manual count, and it's not necessary when drones are deployed in this particular instance. Basically, what the drones would be collecting is the vehicle color and position within the parking space itself. And to get into detail, the color would just be a CMYK code. It's more of like a color coding convention to just determine whether if this red pixel is present at 8 a.m. and if that red pixel is still there at noon. That way you can tell if there's a car present and if there's been turnover. And that provides a lot of information for us without actually having to collect a lot of data. It'll only be used for counting of cars, the number of available parking spaces, number of vehicles in a parking lot on public streets, and determine whether that space is still occupied in the subsequent images. And I do want to highlight that all privacy laws, whether they're state, federal, local, will be ensured, and we will not be interrupting with any sort of emergency response and interfering with reasonable expectation of privacy or restraining order violations. And the last point I really want to highlight is that neither Mobile GR nor any other city staff will actually get access to the raw imagery. We'll be given sort of these refined heat maps that display the data in sort of a graphical format, as well as tables and other charts as well. And we'll have some examples to show you in terms of what we would be delivered from our consultants at the end of this presentation as well. I highlighted on this a bit earlier, but there's a greater anonymization that comes with the aerial imagery capture. And as I mentioned, as opposed to going out manually counting, which would require noting of vehicle identification numbers. This method will also allow us to really have highly reliable data. We can capture one single image at one particular time and be able to compare that across different sectors of the city, as opposed to it takes time to actually go manually from parking lot to parking lot to parking lot or on-street space. So this provides a snapshot, so we have kind of more of an apples-to-apples comparison of the data. And also, it'll be require far less time to do that as well. The drone captures a large area, and then a kind of recognition software basically detects whether it's a car or not. And lastly, it will be less disruptive to the public. We won't have city staff or consultants actually on street, potentially, disrupting members of the public who want to be parking or getting out of parking spaces. So the data collection period at most is going to be around 3 weeks. We would retain this information. Sorry, when I say we, I want to make sure that I note that there's the consultant side and the city staff side. Both consultants and city staff would retain this data indefinitely. The actual raw imagery would be kept with the consultants for their archived records. Then upon completion, it would be delivered in our parking investment strategy, and the raw imagery would be archived with our consultants. So we just have a couple of examples here. I think pictures speak 1,000 words, and this really sort of sends the message home that there's really nothing much that's identifiable personally in these photos. This is one particular parking study in Livonia, just outside of Detroit. This is captured from about 400 feet above ground level with a high-resolution camera. As you can see, it just kind of gives you the general layout, whether there's a car there or not. Another type is like what we call an orthomosaic. It's basically kind of a stitching together of multiple images, and this is actually a broader view. This would be another type of deliverable that we'd be getting from our consultants that would essentially show, you can see here the streets are kind of designated with like a green color. It would be kind of one of those heat maps showing where there's maybe a lot of utilization or a lot of availability. This is also another type of example of what we'd receive. I'm going to hand it back over to Jessica.
All right, thanks, Max. And any detailed questions for Max at this time?
Commissioners, I have 4 quick ones. First of all, have we got an estimate on cost for this study? I'm assuming you've engaged these folks. Second of all, and these are civil liberty concerns, I'm wondering what the reason is we would want to let the consultant archive any footage if we get what we want out of it, which is the maps. It's not as though we're going to be, trying to solve a crime with their more detailed imagery or something. So I'd be more comfortable personally saying, having some obligation for them to burn that source data once we're done getting our information from it and archiving what we get. Third of all, I've played around with drones a couple times, and I try to not run into things, which means I'm not just looking down, I'm looking sideways. So I don't know whether our committee member, Mr. Fine, lives in a building that's 300 feet tall. He might, but we've got a few buildings in town that are that height. So if we're buzzing by somebody's bedroom window and we don't want to run into the riverfront building, we may be getting live images, and whether or not we're capturing them, it seems to me there's potential privacy risk there, and I don't know if you can speak to that, but certainly I would want to make sure we weren't archiving or capturing anything that wasn't straight down. And then I guess, yeah, so maybe you can answer those 3 questions quickly.
Notes?
Yeah. No, great questions, Mr. Mayor. I will speak to the second one because of the specifications there. The reason why we may want to not burn them and actually archive them, the Mobile GR department may have an interest in engaging in a similar on-street parking count in the future. If we are able to archive the images, that would allow us to have greater ability to cross-compare and contrast from one year to the next. Let's say we want to duplicate this effort in some time in the future. It would give us the ability to have a cross comparison from one year to the next. So there may be advantages to archiving in that case. As far as the third, I can provide some additional detail as far as the actual drone device themselves, but I can assure you that in terms of where the camera is pointed and its ability to capture in any sort of 360-degree view, it's not capable. It is actually just directed immediately downward.
Great.
Yeah, so.
So then one other question I guess I would have was we're capturing images, correct? We're not getting video footage?
Correct, yeah,
Okay.
just still images.
Okay, so maybe put some simple language in the contract that would say something like, we're not going to collect or capture any images that aren't pointed directly down. Would probably be good, seems to me. And if that's not a problem for him, it shouldn't be a problem to include it in the language. Any colleague, Pastor, go first.
Yes, thank you for the presentation. What is the main difference between the drones that you're suggesting that we utilize in this capacity for parking versus those from the law enforcement? Because citizens would see and think that a drone is a drone is a drone. Therefore, my privacy is being jeopardized in some particular way. So what's the main distinction, even though you're talking about pictures versus videos and other ways? Can you please make that clear distinction?
Yeah, without being familiar with the drones that our police department are utilizing, I think that's something we can have a conversation with our consultants about to see if there's a way to visually distinguish them in some way. We'll also have staff out there on site with the high visibility vests, and it'll have the project, the team name on it as well. So that will also help to show that we're not staff of the police department conducting this operation.
Thanks. Commissioner Robbins.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I think that's a good question, too. I almost wonder, too, if like the schedule of when certain neighborhoods are going to be doing the analysis could be provided to 311, just in case people call in. I know Mobile GR is extremely social media savvy, too, so I'm sure that would be a good outlet just to inform people ahead of time, too. So just one random question. So what about neighborhoods where I'm thinking like John Ball area neighbors, there's a lot of big trees, and so from an aerial view, you wouldn't really be able to see how many cars are parked on a given street. So I know that's probably the minority of streets within the city, but I know that they exist. So I'm just curious, do we go like manually count those ones, or do they like, I don't know, lower themselves so they get a better angle? I'm not sure. I guess curious how that works.
Okay. What I was going to first say is that this particular project is in the DDA area, and if you remember that snapshot, that's really what we're looking at. We're looking at this investment strategy and the data that we're collecting. We used to collect on-street occupancy, and we did it manually, like Max was talking about. This is an upgrade in that technology to be more efficient, and also, frankly, to be the methodology is firmer, right? Being out there. A lot of human error in clicking by and counting cars and looking at occupancy. So, and it frankly is very expensive to have the person hours out there to do this at the times of day and as often as we want. One of the things this data is doing is giving us a groundwork for or baseline for what our occupancy looks like right now before transformational projects take through that. But I just want to check with kind of the body to go ahead and address that. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. So the greater project, the investment strategy, when I came on board about a year ago, what I noticed is that the most recent parking occupancy data that we had for surface and street parking was 2015, 2010 timeframe, and it's been quite a bit of time. And so I wanted to find a way to get us some updated data. That was originally put together in the GR Forward plan, and so that was the impetus for starting this project. And then when I looked into, when we went out to find a consultant to help us with the parking investment strategy and that data collection piece, this was an innovative data collection recommendation as part of one of the proposals, and this was the ultimately the qualifications-based team that we selected for the project. So you are going right down the same path I was, that we've got big transformational projects, and the number one question I get all the time is, do we have enough parking, Jess? And so I wanted to make sure that I had data to talk about that and have that conversation.
Okay, from that standpoint, I think this is very worthy. A couple other questions. First a comment, we do have buildings that reach almost 400 feet, and that's River House. The building I live in is about 360. So the other thing I think about in terms of drones is how are we managing if other people are up doing the same thing, whether it's recreational or research? What is the management of that, airspace, let's call it?
Right. The management of the airspace is it's something I think Max can give you a little bit more details on. But with drones, my understanding is that you have to have a licensed pilot. That's what they call them, and that's part of our team. And then they're going to abide by the rules and regulations that are in that area. Do you have anything to add to that? Nope, that's pretty much it.
Covers it.
Okay.
Okay, there's also helicopters coming in with on medical purposes also that get to be fairly frequent.
My understanding is that when they fly those drones, they close off the airspace first, and the FAA and other agencies are well aware of that flight that's going on with that unmanned vehicle.
Okay. I don't want to cut this off, but we do want to keep the things moving. So if anyone's got any other critical issues.
Yeah, cost.
Commissioner? Yeah, we did ask about cost.
Yeah.
The other thing is I would encourage you to think about expanding this, because one of the things I think we'll get in neighborhoods is downtown adjacent neighborhoods. There may be a narrative of like, oh, I used to be able to park on the street, but now I can't because the soccer stadium moved into town, and now I can't get parking in my neighborhood 2 miles away. And it'd be nice to be able to have some baseline data when we start hearing that feedback to see whether it's, real or imagined problems with parking. But if you could address the cost issue briefly.
Yeah, cost
Sure,
of how much
sure.
this will cost us.
Sure. So one of the things that Mr. Davis just reminded me is that cost is not a component of this policy's approval.
Okay.
So it's appropriate to describe what cost
sure,
is.
yeah.
Just as a part of the process, as a reminder, this goes to fiscal committee at the end of this part, which is where cost is actually considered, but it's appropriate to give them what it is.
Sure.
I was just going to make that note for y'all. I was definitely going to tell you, I believe this portion of the project, 35? It's about 35,000
Okay.
for this portion of the project. And then that's just the data collection. The greater project
Yeah.
is about 180,000, and it's a planning process that we've been going through. So, sure.
Yeah, I think cost is one of the biggest, and then also just making sure we're addressing, I think, surveillance, and I think you all addressed that appropriately. From reading license plates for immigration things, there's been a lot of distrust in government in terms of surveillance. So I'm very happy that we'll continue to address this, and I am sure we will also hear more on this once we have the public hearing from the public about how deeply concerned they are. So I'm happy that we're doing the right thing and we're showing exactly what our goals are, just so the community knows and we can continue to build that trust. So thank you so much for your presentation.
Great.
you.
I think we're ready for a vote then. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Nobody? Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you
We'll set
all.
this for a public hearing. Thank you so much. This brings us to our second and equally meaty, at least, presentation. We're going to start with a conversation about the monthly crime stats, which is something this committee routinely gets, and then we'll move into something that'll be slightly duplicative for some of us, which is discussions about public safety improvements that we've made in the last few years. And Chief, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Crime statistics through June, as you can see, still good news on the auto theft front. I hope this trend continues. Won't beat that horse to death because we've talked about it quite a bit in this committee, as you can see, in general, headed in the right direction. Robbery totals too, lower than the past 3 years. That's fantastic news. Ag assault, I did have some discussions with our data analysts around this, and there's no statistically significant patterns or anything, and these include some lower level crimes, so this could actually be somewhat of a result of us responding to incidents more quickly and taking reports for lower level crimes that in years past victims may have declined to report altogether. But anyway, no statistically significant issues here. As you can see, this chart is trending in the right direction. for the past 2 years. We hope to continue progress on the violent crime front. This is sort of a snapshot of every place where an individual in the city has been shot. If you're looking for patterns, really, the only discernible one is that more densely populated area that we've had, which it makes logical sense. We've had several in some of our apartment complexes, but otherwise geographically across the city, you can see it's sort of a north, south, east, west problem. We've lost 6 individuals to violence this year, youngest, of course, being Myasia. All 6 of these cases have been cleared by the detectives. All 6 of these have resulted in the arrest and prosecutions of accountable individuals. I praised our detectives' work earlier, and I'll do it again. You can see from the national average, we're still working on these 21, 22, 23, 24 cases to get those numbers up high, but every case from this year has been closed. At 70 now, fentanyl overdoses, averaging over 1 illegally possessed weapon year to date, including, as I saw, 5 from the sidewalks downtown this weekend of individuals on scooters, on bikes, 1 person on foot, all likely with definitely illegal intent and illegally possessed guns. And those are 5 incidents you won't hear anything about because they were so professionally executed by the officers, and those are very strenuous, intense situations that usually don't hear about until something goes wrong. So they're doing a great job out there. 261 is a pretty impressive number. So going on, it's been a while since a comprehensive review. I did this in Cal, but I'll run through it. I'll try not to use the same words, but police department's been here since 1871. I've been here for the past 3 years. I know a lot has changed. A lot has changed over the past 3 years, and we're going to continue making progress. And one thing I asked both internally and externally when I got here is what can I do to be successful? And the answer was the same, both inside the department and I'll be present. And I embrace both structured and unstructured opportunities for feedback, and the changes that we've made over the year reflect the feedback we've given. History of policing, both heroic and harmful. Our recruits are educated on a lot of the modern issues of policing, which can cause trust, but picture in the top middle there is Grand Rapids police officer John Stubbs. I'm going to talk a little bit about really generational mistrust of police officers, and that goes back generationally. We're talking uniformed American police officers were conducting slave patrols, were enforcing black codes after the Civil War, were enforcing segregation laws. And this case of John, I met his daughter, who's a Grand Rapids resident, younger than me, so young woman who told me that she didn't have any pictures of her Grand Rapids police officer father in uniform. He died when she was young, and so I went to the archives to see if I could find one. I found this and a couple other really awesome pictures of him in his dress uniform, and I also found a sealed envelope to the left there, not to be opened by anyone other than the police chief, sealed in the 1950s, and it was sealed out of shame, protection, I'm not sure what, but it was sealed as part of his personnel file to hide the fact that he had been arrested in 1948 after returning from the Army because he tried to use a whites-only tennis court in 1948 in Kentucky. 5 years later, he joined the Grand Rapids Police Department at a time in America when uniformed police officers were still enforcing segregation laws against African Americans. He still saw this job as I do, the best opportunity to make a positive impact in the lives of others. But what a great personal to Grand Rapids example of how this generational mistrust exists, and it is not ancient history. This is recent history. So important, really fascinating. I was glad to have an opportunity to meet Megan, his daughter. So I also said heroic, some instances here, bottom right, as I said earlier, we can't always share all the amazing things that we're doing for various reasons, one of which is privacy complaints. The bottom right is since we were talking about drones, it's a drone image, and we use the drone to capture an individual. You can see him laying on the ground in front of a police officer running after being tackled by another police officer who was wanted for sex trafficking a minor. And The officers did a fantastic job, obviously using the technology that we have, and it's a fascinating story, but it's one that we can't tell because we want to protect the identity of this young woman. All right. So speaking of heroism, one of the things we're always looking to do better, and one thing I can do better with this body and others is share positive things that happen. And this is one of our officers that we honored at our awards ceremony. He's on a traffic stop, and another car pulls up in front of this traffic stop.
Hang on. Hey, what's going on? What's going on? Okay. Oh, God, no. Hey. Please help me. Hey. Oh, please help me.
Hang on.
Help me. Help me.
Let me do
No.
it.
Please help. Please help. What is wrong? What is wrong?
She's choking.
What is wrong? Help me.
Hey, there you go. Hey, you're okay. You're okay. Hey, there you go. You're okay.
Oh, God.
You're okay. You okay?
No.
There you go. You're okay. You're okay. No, yeah, just keep medical coming, but she's good now.
Please, God.
Hey, you're okay.
Please, God, please.
You're okay. Hey, she's okay. She's okay. Hey, you're okay.
Oh, not the only baby that we save a year, but one that brought a tear to my eye when I watched it and didn't share it when it happened. So here's the timeline of the past 10 years, and a lot has happened in the past 10 years. In light of all the questions surrounding the Sure trial and recent high-profile incidents, sometimes there's an effort to paint a picture that no progress has been made at GRPD. So this makes this discussion more important. This timeline looks back 10 years. A lot of stuff has happened in the years past. You see all the way back to that photo. Body-worn cameras, that was such a huge thing to happen here. 21 CP, the 21st Century Policing Consultants, policies publicly shared. There's a lot going on here, but I want to discuss more specifically the last 3 years. Prior to my arrival in 2022, the surveillance policy was updated, and I started in March. A few weeks after that, Patrick Leroy was killed by former officer Christopher Sure. The city as a whole increased its engagement with the refugee and immigrant community, including GRPD. We increased the police chief advisory team to include representation from emerging communities and started meeting with refugee communities where they are, and that continues to this day. We saw an alarming spike of crime during the summer of 22. The rest of the city government rallied to do their part in making our city safer with a whole of government approach to public safety. July, I was standing here giving my commission presentation for my 100-day anniversary, sharing my vision for the department. Also July, we piloted the co-response program with Network 180 with one clinician. Later in the year, we became the first city in the state to add civilian oversight language to a collective bargaining agreement. Our 911 center updated technology to accept text messages to 911, updated policies on de-escalation, response to resistance, and use of force. They were implemented along with a sanctity of life policy, establishing the highest priority of the department. And we completed training on these new policies. 2023, another big year of changes. We reorganized command staff to prioritize and elevate our training and engagement unit. We transitioned from impact striking to grappling and jiu-jitsu focused subject control, which has been embraced to the point we have now numerous GRPD instructors and a very active grappling club. We've observed safer results for all parties as we continue to train and get better. We began community education. Sorry about that. We began community education and outreach program on social media to increase transparency, including 5 Things Friday, which received national attention from police publications and help humanize our department members so they're not just seen as the uniform. We updated our strategic plan, expanded recruiting to include military bases and historically black colleges and universities, and took efforts to add efficiency and reduce the use of sworn officers for roles which can be filled with civilians. Transitioned sworn officers off the homeless outreach team while still maintaining a liaison position, hired a civilian chief of staff, civilianized records, subpoena services, and public information officer positions. We obtained CALIA accreditation in July, ensuring that not only do we meet the best national practices, but we are in a constant state of self-evaluation. With summer violence again a concern, the city, recognizing the police cannot do it alone, increased its investment in summer violence prevention programs. After a large amount of public engagement, in accordance with the City of Grand Rapids surveillance policy, we obtained drones for the first time in August of 23. By the end of the year, we had launched a multi-pronged in-person and online recruiting program to aid in reaching appropriate staffing. With the support of OPA, we have obtained new and improved body-worn cameras with better quality images, a two-stage shut-off, which now prevents unintentional stops of recordings. We also obtained new taser technologies, longer effective range and technology which disables the taser if an officer loses possession of it. Part of that contract also gave us state-of-the-art virtual reality trainers so we can enhance our scenario-based training to include a whole new catalog of real-life scenarios that look and feel realistic. Last year was the first time we sent a sponsored recruit class to Grand Rapids Community College. We continue to utilize GRCC's Academy, and I was invited by the college to provide input during the interviews for the newly hired director. February of 24, we added a second full-time clinician to the co-response team. The police department met with, also in February, the police department met with elected state leadership to discuss police reforms, resulting in March the publishing of an op-ed in the Detroit Free Press advocating for the elimination of no-knock warrants. To further both transparency and recruiting efforts, Investigation Discovery began filming a docuseries for 100 days starting in May of last year. We activated our new CrimeStat dashboard in June. We were the first agency authorized to use a crisis stabilization unit as they got up and running in their first 6 months. We continue to utilize this vital part of the Behavioral Health Crisis Center to provide those in crisis a near immediate path to services and better outcomes. Speaking of better outcomes, we added a third full-time clinician to our co-response team to begin coverage of night shifts. One thing I say in my swearing-in speech for all the new hires is that we don't hire people because of their resume filled with criminal justice experience. We know we have top-notch training and we can train to elevate our recruit skills in police procedure so long as they have excellent character, which is what we hire for. That's why we revamped our psychological screening process to screen for propensity for violence and screening for bias. We've kept the progress going full speed this year with the help of the commission, adding the position of victim services manager to expand the team and services for the vulnerable, especially for support services for those affected by domestic violence. In April, the team held its first community session on healing from trauma and crime victim rights. We've added efficiency to our use of force tracking with new software, transitioned to better, less lethal tools, and marked my 3-year anniversary. We renewed our contract with Network 180 to ensure the continuation of our co-response team. In March of 25, crime scene technician Mallory Kassarian was named GRPD Employee of the Year. And in June, she thankfully elected to become the LGBTQ plus liaison. Looking ahead, we are working with the law department and OPA to make sure we have the right legal and policy priorities in the city. We're planning on the return of a new and improved community officer program in an department which 25 years ago had 400 officers. We've been doing more or less improving efficiency, but from a low of 261, we are growing to meet our growing city's needs. And we're always seeking opportunities for engagement. We will be taking part in the next commission night out focused on public safety, and I'm happy to take any questions at this time.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Mayor.
Questions? Pastor Golson?
Yes. Thank you so much, Chief, for the rundown, and it's good to see the last 3 years. And while it's been productive and while the sun is shining, there has been a cloud that's been hovering, especially over the last few months, if you will, as it relates to things that are transpiring. When we look at the involvement of citizens within working with the OPA and yourselves when it comes to policy, procedures, and development of them, what does that look like, and how often are you reviewing that capacity as well? And I know you're doing trainings, I think once a month, I think you recorded earlier today. And when you look at, civilian involvement with the curriculum, how do we address that capacity?
So civilian involvement. Oh, well, I don't want to steal Director Davis's thunder. I think he's giving a presentation on that specific subject next.
Okay.
So I'll wait to hear from him.
Okay. Well, let's rewind then to civilian involvement. Is he going to talk about civilian involvement when it comes to policies and how often?
Well, training, as well? Yeah. So community informed training, and I gave the involvement earlier of our deaf and hard and hearing community. They approached us with, hey, we want the officers to use that to look at this. To learn this. And we provided them with our policy on interacting with the deaf and hard of hearing community. And they say, I think you got your policy a little wrong. We said, what do you think our policy should look like? So they pretty much wrote our policy. So if there is a capacity there for us to hear from this. I mean, as I said earlier, city's entitled to be policed how it wants to be policed. It's entitled to have its officer trained on what it wants those officers trained on. So where that's the thing, we're not looking for civilian input so much on, things to do with the range, but everything else we're looking for civilian input on.
Thank you.
So I don't know if I'd hold my questions till after Mr. Davis or things now, because I don't know what's going to be in the next report, but if we can just have Chief available. and Brandon, that way-
You're not going anywhere, right, Chief? You'll
I'll
stick around?
right here.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, we are going to try to get out of here in 17 minutes, so perhaps it's time to bring up Mr. Davis. Mr. Davis is a lawyer, so he can probably just filibuster for 17 minutes, no trouble.
I could, but I won't. All right, good afternoon again. In the interest of time, I'll go very fast. Brandon Davis from the Office of Oversight and Public Accountability and the Office of Equity Engagement. I am joined by Gil Harvey, who's the Community Affairs Analyst for OPA. She also is the person who leads our Community Informed Training work. So today we'll talk about our Community Informed Training Program. What is CIT? How does it work? We'll talk through some of the trainings. We'll talk about why it's important. And we'll make sure that everyone understands how to connect with the program if you're interested in moving forward with that. And then we'll also have some time for questions. So what is CIT? It's the Community Informed Public Safety Training Program. It recognizes the fact that really what the chief was talking about, that our community members have a right to lift their voice, to say this is how we think public safety should be trained in Grand Rapids. And we recognize there are different types of knowledge, right? There is book knowledge that we learn. It's on-the-job knowledge, but no one can tell you about my lived experience in the same way that I can. And we recognize that every community is different and every experience of different communities are different, and therefore this training allows those community members to come forward and say, hey, here's what I think you need to know about my neighborhood, here's what I think you need to know about my lived experience that could help you in the way that you navigate public safety in Grand Rapids. So these trainings are designed in partnership with community and in a way to be culturally relevant. This is a collaborative effort between both OPA, neighborhoods, nonprofit organizations, and our public safety departments. So how does it work? There's really three parts to this. There's listen, develop, and train. When we say listen, that's really the first stage of how we navigate this space. We're listening to the opinions, to the thoughts and desires of community members. Our city strategic plan says that we want to enhance resident voice in public safety operations. This is one of the ways that we do that. Some people come to OPA and say, hey, I just have an idea. Here's this small thought that I've been thinking about, and we'd like for you to develop a training that can be given to our public safety departments off of that idea. And that's fine. They come with this idea and we develop the rest. But some people come with 4 training modules and say, I've been thinking about this for a long time, or I've done this training somewhere else, and I think this is something that should be brought to the city. And we work with people if they come with that one idea or they come with the full training module to make sure that we are giving trainings that are relevant to our police department and to our fire department. So the next part is that development stage. That's when we look at whatever was brought and we tailor it to the city of Grand Rapids. We work through designing those trainings and creating those modules based on the ideas that was presented from community. After we do that, then the training happens. So each training looks and feels different. Some are presented by community members. Others are presented by trainers. Up to date, 220 individuals have participated in CIT trainings and programs, and that includes both staff and community members. So some of the training topics that we have given are listed here. One is workplace wellness. Others are visible and invisible parts of culture. Again, designed to help people understand the importance of culture in navigating those public safety spaces. Another space was effective community policing for our youth. I'm going to quickly invite Ms. Harvey for about 60 seconds to talk about a couple of the programs and training topics that we've offered.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Hello, everyone. So I just prepared just a few of them that we've had. We've had very good success with these trainings and these sessions with our public safety. They attend, it started very small, and now we're filling the room, and it's good information and it's good participation. One of them is flight Fight or Freeze. And what that did is worked with our youth and engaging with our public safety on how to act and how to react. And this session was all about slowing down, all about being able to think during your encounter and how to respond with our public safety that would keep everyone safe and not be a threat or look threatening for the person or our public safety. Another one was how to calm an anxious mind, where they brought in professionals, psychologists, therapists, and they worked directly with public safety to find out, what it is they're thinking, what the thoughts are during these things. And they're in a room where they can speak freely and just take up some of the training that is involved there with the sessions. And one of them, again, How Big Is Your Heart was awesome. It worked with our senior citizens, and the senior citizens interacted with public safety. That was actually a photo from that particular session. And what that did is our seniors are from a whole different era. And so when they used to call on public safety back in different years and times for them, it was a very scary, scary time. And so by being able to be in a room with our public safety, being able to act with them, interact with them, ask questions back and forth and have conversations, it really eased their minds and their fears. So these trainings are amazing. Our public safety is involved in them. I believe it works well for them, and our community is very receptive to these sessions, and they give us this information. So just thankful that this is going on and that it is growing.
Thank you, Gail. I think she really spoke to a part that I think is really important, and that is it's beneficial on both sides. So when we talk about this, community members are coming forward and saying, this is what we want public safety to be trained on, but it also creates space for interaction between community members and members of our public safety departments, which helps to build those relationships, which leads to more effective policing. So why is CIT important? Well, we already started to talk about some of that. It delivers diverse perspectives that lead to comprehensive solutions. It also engages community in those public safety efforts. Again, doing what our strategic plan says we want to do, which is enhancing resident voice in public safety operations. It helps to build trust between public safety and community, and it's authentic trust, right? Because it's in a space where we're talking about the issues that community wants to talk about and presenting it in the way the community says it should be presented. And it also helps to ensure that all people feel safe and are safe at all times throughout community. So there's been a lot of feedback related to the program. Some of it includes more people should be here. That's what we're hearing from members of community. They're saying more people should be a part of it because it's been informative and helpful. They've also said, and this is from police officers as well as community members, but it's an excellent training that's being offered by the city, and they are appreciative of the commitment to greater development. There's been support for some of the partners we've worked with as well to help navigate this space. I'll read just one last one. It says, this was such an incredible experience. I absolutely loved all of the stations I did, and the staff was so friendly and helpful. I would love to experience more trainings like this. So we want everybody to experience trainings like this, and here's how you do it. To connect with CIT, there's several ways to do it. You can go online to grandrapidsmi.gov/OPA, or just search for OPA's webpage, and there's more information about connecting with CIT. You can also call OPA's office directly. That's at 4564-OPA, or you can call 311 and ask for OPA. And what will happen is we'll do an intake process with you, talk through it, find out what that idea is or training module is, and we'll get the process going. We love doing community meetups. OPA loves to be in community. And sometimes the best thing for us to do is to come to pre-existing events and just set up a table as OPA and talk to members of community about what trainings they think should be offered. And if you're doing something like that, let our office know. We'd love to be there. And lastly, you can email Ms. Harvey, and her email address is listed here. And with that, I'll see if there's any questions.
Committee members, yes, Ms. James.
I see that you said 220 individuals have participated in this. Does that include our public safety officers as well?
Yes, so there's been a mix of public safety officers and community members who participated.
Chief Wickstrom, when you shared earlier, you said there's 11 required trainings for the public safety officers. Is OPA not one of them?
It could be. So, for example, the
How do we
Devin
make that
Hardy hearing.
happen?
What's that?
I said, how do we make that happen?
Oh, well, it depends on the topic. So, for example, the deaf and hard of hearing, the example that I gave, every single member of the police department had to be trained on that. It wasn't a record because it was virtual, not a meeting space. I think the 200-plus meetings, those are the individuals in the room. And just logistically, if we pick something that we want to make in-room mandatory, just keep in mind we work 24/7 and we have over 400 employees, 300 sworn, so logistically it's a heavy lift, as I'm sure Brandon has dealt with this, as certainly I have throughout the time. So, but it is possible, as evidence in that one example. I mentioned the changes that I did in all of the use of force policies. We had to train every single police officer on that. The procedures too, every single police officer. So we do it. So if it's something that we need, that every single police officer needs, we can either do it virtually or do it in a classroom setting.
Thank you.
Just to build, excuse me, thank you. Just to build on that just a little bit. I mean, there is a big concern in the community around police community relations. I guess I got. First of all, I don't think 7 minutes is time enough to really address a subject like this. I really think we need to set aside a time that's going to be specific for this issue because it's that big in the community. I would say, what do you guys think can help police community relations? But just on that point, how do we decide what trainings are required for whom? For example, implicit bias is in both Brandon's report of 2021, Mr. Davis's report of 2021 is coming out of the 12-point plan, and as well as in the police chief's report of 2022, after you had a chance to analyze things. So implicit bias, cultural competency, gang culture, so that those police officers that are patrolling those areas how do we require that they're familiar? And then I guess I have a third part. Again, like I said, y'all know me, so we have to have more conversation. When those things are violated, what does the community do have? What opportunity do they have to file a complaint? What's that process and those things like that?
You want to talk
Sure.
about complaints first? And then
Sure, I could talk about the complaint aspect of it. So whenever there's a violation of any policy by the police department or the fire department, complaints can be filed with the Office of Oversight and Public Accountability. Now, there are structures in place that would allow for complaints to go directly to the police department or directly to the fire department. I encourage members of the community to start with OPA. You can file a complaint with OPA, and we will help you navigate the process. Our role is really to help you go through all of those steps. After a complaint is filed with OPA, we take that complaint, if it's a police-related complaint, and those are investigated by the Internal Affairs Division of the police department. Throughout that investigation, in many types of cases, OPA is able to monitor that complaint process after the complaint has been decided upon by Internal Affairs. If it falls into one of the categories, and we could talk about that in more detail, another point, we are then able to do a separate audit of those findings to see if it aligns with policy. What that allows us to do is help community members to have that additional space to say, hey, we just want another set of eyes on this. And the truth is, because there has been breakdowns in trust, although we've made a lot of progress, because there have been breakdowns in trust when police are involved in the investigative process, there are sometimes questions, and that's where OPA comes in to help that. On certain types of cases, most notably use of force or certain types of impartial policing cases, community members can then even appeal a decision of the Internal Affairs Department to the Civilian Appeals Board. So there are several steps through that. In the interest of time, I won't go into more detail, but call OPA. We'd be happy to talk you through that process.
Yeah, as far as training, much like highlighting good things that the police department does, it's something that I can do better as far as educating individuals. So what I have done is resurrect the Citizens Police Academy and the Youth Police Academy. We now do 2 youth police academies every year. So the opportunities are there. It's reaching out to the community and get them to participate. Now, one thing that I can offer this body is in September, on a regular basis, we do in-house trainings where our training staff will actually go through everything that we actually do. I think it's about a 4-hour block with the CAB board members and new commissioners of the law department if they're interested, but I could invite everyone on this board as well. So for us, it's just finding those opportunities to get people in to see what we're doing, because I think if you saw the actual training in progress, you'd be like, oh, okay, this is what they're teaching about implicit bias. This is the use of force training. So I certainly will extend that invitation to this body as well.
And Mayor, not to commandeer the time, but I did want to acknowledge, I appreciate the progress that has been made. We just have much more progress to go, and I just think the effort has to be put in by everybody in the community, ourselves included. I've already reached out to Ms. Harvey to schedule some trainings with my Cure Violence staff, and heck, our department, our whole organization. But I do think we've got to do better as far as making sure we're connecting with those community points to get it out throughout the community.
I agree.
Thank you. Any other discussion at this point?
And CIT has been in existence for how long now?
For the last 2 years.
Mayor, I do want to add, first of all, just time check to see, do we have everybody here at least till 2, or do we have any hard stops at 1:30?
I'll make it work.
I can push back. I do have a 2 o'clock, but.
Okay. Well, just real briefly, what I hear and have heard from community members when we talk about this new opportunity for community-informed, community-engaged training, people are very not as aware of it. And so I do think we need to be more intentional in the engagement effort to make people aware and then to see how we can get more people involved. That's what I heard. You were at a meeting with me and heard similar things, as well as the chief and members from OPA staff. So I hear that a lot, and I'm not sure how we can increase the awareness of this new approach to developing our law enforcement officers.
Well, and I'll piggyback on that. I mean, I think one of the dilemmas of democracy is you often get the engaged, the interested, and the active to show up for conversations about things that can affect every single member of the community. And it's one of our constant struggles with getting people to come up, and turn out and vote. But awareness on a really community-wide level is a real challenge. I mean, if you just get, faith leaders into a conversation, you've just got the faith leaders in the conversation. If you just get neighborhood activists in a conversation, you've just got neighborhood activists. Which isn't to discount all the hard work that those people do, and we can hope that they can be conduits and have some ability to push information down. But I certainly think, we've talked about this before, but, a culture of continuous improvement. So I think that knowing that our goal is going to be to do better tomorrow than we did yesterday, I think that's got to be true of all of our justice and policing work, but it's also got to be true about our get the word out. We can't just say, oh, well, we did X and we had 3 things in our list and we ticked them off and that's good enough. So I'm certainly committed to always thinking about how we can get this information out better, because information that's warmly received and well received, and you get feedback of, gee, I wish more people could hear about it. Well, you're onto something good. So it's worth the effort to communicate. But if you want to speak to this, to new ideas or any new initiatives you have, we have some tools in our toolbox, like our city website, these meetings, but we got 20 people in the meeting, 30 people in the meeting. Maybe we got 200,000 watching online, but I doubt it.
Sure, Mayor. Thank you for the feedback, and I think it is important, and it's something that we hear as well. How do we get more information? Now, when we started this, we did a big push media-wise and on social media to try to make sure the community members knew about it. And what I'm hearing is it might be time to do that again, so we can revamp some of those efforts. Ms. Harvey does a great job of being in community. Ms. Harvey's everywhere. She does a really good job of being in community. She's at neighborhood association meetings. She's at every organization that she can think of, so we share information that way. But we will ramp up our media push again, connect with some traditional partners in social media to try to get the word out.
I was going to suggest, since the police chief has already committed, not tonight, but our next commission night out, as he does engagement, we should have a resource, our focus effort in also featuring the community informed training.
Sure, that's a great idea.
Thank you.
And I'm not the politician you are, so I'm not sure about the dilemma of democracy, but it might exist. But what I know has happened here with the people, there's a fatigue, there's a fed upness with, and I don't know if that's a word, but I guess we'll make it a word, a fed upness to it for generations decades, the community has been asking for things. Again, this predates you, Chief, predates City Manager, predates the Mayor. The community has been asking for things to happen as far as it relates to community police relations, and they just haven't happened. Or the things that have happened and improvements have made, maybe communication isn't the greatest. So I believe, through my conversations, we're at an inflection point of where do we go from here? We are generally an inflection point. I think public safety meeting, we need to be paying a lot, this needs to probably be a topic at every meeting, as well as work sessions to work through this. How do we engage? How do we roll this out? How do we make make this a better case? I mean, when I go back and look through all the reports that were there and things that just did not make it to where we are today, the community says, well, heck, nothing's going to change. There's that fatigue that sets up. We need to instill hope. Again, Cure Violence, you guys know that we run Cure Violence programming. I don't want to get soapboxy, but 2007, their former commissioner, James White, former commissioner, Eric Williams, commissioned a citywide convening. One of the top things there was that the young folks in our city didn't see hope, particularly my African American and minority, didn't see hope. 2014, 2017, I can't remember. Johnson Center, we did the same thing. One of the same things that rose up as a theme is there's no hope in the city. The underlying things of violence, housing stability, income stability, educational disparities, all those things we have to be able to address as well as this in order to do this. But when we've asked for policy and practices review, those type of things, civilian subpoena power with civilian appeal board, those type of things that go unaddressed and ignored, that's when the community gets fatigued on things. I don't know if there was a question in there, but.
I think I'll just say I've heard those sentiments as well. And I think this is the kind of issue that we will never solve with a silver bullet.
Nope.
And so, because to your point, it's been generations of this conversation. But I do think that we, at least on our watch, your watch on this commission, the chief's watch, Chief Brandon, mine, the mayor, we have to do all what we can in that moment and for that time. And I think over the past, what the chief's trying to show the past 3 years, he's contributed to some improvement in the department and building trust. We know we still have more to go, but what I hope we don't, as you talk about hope, if we continuously talk about nothing's been done, that does not give people hope, and I don't think that's accurate. So helping to, I think the way the chief phrased it earlier, there was harmful and helpful, or however you phrase those two dynamics of policing. Is that accurate? That we can talk about both and do it in a very practical, authentic way, but know that we have to focus on how can we help the community move forward and still acknowledge the hurt that has been done in the past, and that may take people some time to address. So I know we're running out of time, but I do think the fact that we have a Cure Violence program. When I arrived here, we only talked about it. There was not a dime invested in it. And so now we went from a pilot to a multi-year, it's ongoing operational. Talk about no hope. All we talked about was how do we keep people positively engaged in the summer. And while there was disparate efforts for having the city being affirming the need for that and having a specific focused youth employment program, now having community partners help us with crime prevention, having evening programs with LifeQuest and others. And so while that's not the total solution, we need to continue to talk about how can we do more, but also at least acknowledge that there has been some progress, but not as much as some I would agree would like to see.
Well, and if I can piggyback off that, amen to everything you just said, City Manager, but I think that often when I'm having conversations, I try to encourage people to not say, this is terrible, but to say how they'd like something to be better specifically. So I think it's great, and we can never stop asking the community to give us specific actionable things that they would like us to consider to make things better in our community. And I think that that's the mentality we have to really, really lean into. And I guess I want to just reemphasize what maybe you skated over at the end of your presentation, Chief, was there are things on the horizon that I'm really excited about. I'm really excited about taking a hard look at what we call criminal in our city and actions that we criminalize as opposed to things that we might be able to deter and discourage with simple civil infractions. And that conversation is just starting. I think that the conversation about scaling up co-response, we talked about that earlier at our committee of the whole, but we can all see the math on there's huge potential to co-response and there's huge potential to mental health only responses and maybe not an armed response. And those are seeds that have been planted, but we can all see that those have to scale up. And for every training initiative we do, there are other new ideas for training initiatives on the horizon, and it's also true that we can some of this is get back to the future. Those of us in the room remember that we really used to have community policing police officers in the city, but we also used to have 400 officers. And when we scaled down in the Great Recession to, frankly, a skeleton crew of police officers, well, a lot of the good community engagement stuff gets cut first because you still need, because at the end of the day, the police have to respond to 911 calls, just like a hospital has to have an emergency department. But if you've only got an emergency department, you can't expect good outcomes from your hospital. And if we don't have community police officers engaging the community, I'm convinced there's a limit to how far we can go. And I will tell this group, we had that conversation in community as a whole, you can go back and look at it, but I am convinced that our commission is willing and ready and eager to support that growth and movement in the future in public safety. But again, as Commissioner James, our committee member James pointed out, there's a whole, and other people, one of the things that we have to keep coming back to is public safety is a much bigger thing than the problems we ask the police to deal with. And so a peaceful and a empathetic and a truly mutually supportive community involves a lot of things, and not just the things we call crimes. So as important as cure violence is, one of the things they're doing and that our police officers can do potentially, but other people in the community can do, is start solving problems before they become problems, diffusing tensions. And there's so much work we can do in that space. And I think all of us would welcome ideas from the community on that, because we will never be done with dealing with public safety. When people get together, you have a fundamental tension between, I want to do whatever I want, with, I have to be able to get along with my neighbor. We're never going to solve public safety. We can get better at it, but we're never going to be done.
So if I can just 60 seconds real quick, is I appreciate you got both. So yeah, nothing has been done, may have been extreme, and I try not to use those type of things. So I do want to recognize and acknowledge that there has been some things done. But gentlemen, ladies, for this a large part of the community, it feels like nothing's been done for a long time. How we combat that? I mean, and I'm not going to go on, because I hear a commitment to continue this conversation, keep this conversation going, so that we can get to substantive change. That is, because I think there is a fierce urgency of now, to quote Dr. King, that we address with this problem here in Grand Rapids. That's all.
Amen. So thank you both.
I have one question.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Ms. James.
Brendan Davis, can we as a committee ask you to come up with a multi-pronged approach of how we can directly improve community relations between the neighborhoods in Grand Rapids and the police department? Is that something OPA can give us?
Well, that's something that we would have to be directed to do by the city manager. But I do think that's the type of work that we're already doing, and we're working comprehensively, not just as OPA, but the police department and other departments throughout the city are doing that work.
Can I ask Ms. James and Ms., by the direction of the city manager, maybe, I'm not a great event planner, but Ms. James and Ms. Harvey, thank you. I challenged DC Triggs, a baseball star, to a softball game with the police and community leaders. If y'all can help us organize that, we'll be there. I'll play first base. I can't run anymore, but let's do something like that.
All right. So thank you. Thank you all. Great discussion, and we'll continue to have these conversations. Thanks. That moves us along to our next agenda item, which is an update from our fire department on their strategic plan. I'm glad you have strategies. Chief, take it away.
All right. Good afternoon. The fire department is entering its 5th strategic plan, so I believe we're the longest tenured department doing strategic planning here in the city. And I want to start out with two items. First, I want to thank my team in the back, planning division. We have some men and women off the streets, and then my executive staff. It's a very collaborative process. We have citizens, we have neighborhood groups, we have every rank is represented, and labor sits at the table with us to come up with this plan. The second thing is the celebration. As Chief Winstrom said, we do not celebrate our wins enough. So today, I invite you on the way out to grab some food, and we're going to hang out in the back and celebrate with us. So I'll move us through this pretty quick. This is a 9 to 12-month process for us when we engage in our strategic plan. It starts the year before it expires, and we have very specific steps that we move through. We gather a lot of information, not only internally, but in the community and with other agencies that we work with. So it's a very open, transparent process. The internal workshop brings all of that information together, and we spend about 9 to 10 hours in a room together in one day and really grind through not only what we've heard from all the other groups, but where we need to go. The mission statement of the Grand Rapids Fire Department did not change. It was affirmed. The values did not change. Those were affirmed as well. The vision statement did. The vision statement now, with input from city manager, he felt we weren't reaching far enough. And so I initially had the group primed to say the fire department wanted to become the safest mid-sized city in the Midwest. And manager said, I think you're better than that. I think your men and women are better than that. So it's country. Become the safest mid-sized city in the country by developing our members to provide industry-leading fire and rescue services. And I want to make a point that means we have to continue investing in our people because they're the ones on the streets doing the work. I'm not going to read this whole plan to you, but understand that we have strategies broken up into 5 key areas in our department: response, training, prevention, wellness, and support services. Each one of these has an owner and a backup. There's a desired outcome where we want that group of work to be in the future, and then 3 distinct strategies. You're going to look at this and say, this seems overly simplistic. It's very hard to make it look like this. We then take this one page and break it down into multiple pages of who is going to do what by when. We have goals, we have tasks, we have fiscal commitments. All that is lined out in additional paperwork behind the scenes. But we want this to be more of a placemat, something that our members can see walking down the hallway, that our community members, that our public safety committee can glance at and know where the department is headed. We're almost done, but I do want to wrap up with a few key wins over the last 3 years. In our response pillar, we maintained an ISO Class 1 rating. We presented on that earlier this year. We're the only department in the state of Michigan to have that rating. In training, we finally completed our EMTB, Emergency Medical Technician Basic level, for all of our members on the streets. So we are providing a much higher level of medical service to our community. Wellness, we utilized grant funding and did cancer screening and got some pretty scary news. We identified several life-threatening cancers in our members. As you know, firefighters are much more predisposed to certain types of cancer at a higher rate. Multiple surgeries for these people have been completed, and the prognosis is good. So I'm very thankful that we did this proactive screening to keep our employees safe and their families whole. In prevention, we've retooled our second grade presentations over the last 3 years. Every fall, we go out to every school in the city and engage with all the second graders. And then finally, support services. We began our new emergency management process. Monday, the new emergency manager starts. So in 3 years, I just highlighted a few. We have a lot of good work that has been completed. And then finally, as an accredited fire department, our reaccreditation is coming up. This strategic plan, the presentation to you and the way we do it, satisfies several core competencies. One, that we have a plan. Two, that we use SMART objectives. Three, that we solicited feedback from the community. Four, we identified personnel that are actually going to do the work. And then after this, we're going to instruct our department on what this plan contains, so every member of the department knows where we're going. And then finally, we review these goals every 6 months. And so this is an iterative process that we go through. So we're very excited to roll out this next strat plan, and certainly able to answer any questions you might have.
Thanks, Chief. Great briefing, and I really appreciate the process. It reminds me of my joke about my favorite format for meetings, which is the engineering format, which is what are we going to do, who's going to do it, when are we going to do it by, why are we still meeting?
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, thank you for that update. So you talked about wellness screenings and identifying life-threatening issues, particularly cancers among your members. I'm wondering if you've also done any proactive or if you've been keeping up to date with health issues that are occupational hazards for firefighters in regards to PFAS. Have you done any research on that? Have you learned anything that could be mitigating the effects of exposure to PFAS chemicals?
Yep, thank you for that question. So we do a very comprehensive annual physical through the city. It's NFPA compliant, so that's a governing body over how we do things in the fire service. We have an extensive blood panel taken every year for every one of our people, and they do identify some things. The other thing we're working on right now is transitioning our turnout gear to PFAS-free turnout gear, but understand that takes 3 to 4 years given the number of sets of gear. And of course, our foam has been PFAS-free for well over a decade, but we're very well aware that we're exposed to things the general public is not on a frequent basis. So for us, getting that good baseline medical when people enter the fire service, and every year having good blood work, good physicals, good x-rays, and doing that screening is key to catching things early.
That's great to hear. Thank you so much.
Thank you for this presentation, and my time here on this committee, I have been more than impressed with the fire department, your leadership, your internal leaders, and the direction of the department. So thank you for all of your hard work. I do find it to be heroic given the struggles and the tribulations you have to overcome on a daily basis. It's recognized and appreciated. And with that, I'm curious about those pages and pages of more driven down details that fall within this program and whether or not it's open to the public. I ask with specific interest towards the homeless outreach team and how the work that we've done to recognize this very nuanced program that lives inside of the fire department continues. Wondering where that falls and how people like me that are interested in it can find those greater details.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So normally we'll put the strategic plan out on the website. The operational plan has a lot greater detail that most people would find boring, but we can certainly get the operational plan to the Public Safety Committee for you to review. The homeless outreach team is specifically mentioned in there, as well as emergency management. It falls under either the response, prevention, or support services pillars. So it'll give you more insight into what we're working on. Yeah, thank you for that question.
City Manager?
Just real briefly, thank you, Chief, and to all the members of the department for your work as well. Several important things are happening with regard to equitable distribution of services. Those 2 new fire stations are serving a much historically neglected part of our city on the southeast side. So thank you for leading those capital efforts, along with the training center that's going to help with regional preparation. But lastly, with the new emergency manager that's coming on board, what we found, we've had a great robust emergency program. But what I've asked the chief to help us in the future when there is a local disaster that is not federally declared by FEMA or statewide or even locally, but we need support and assistance. We need disaster recovery efforts coordinated. And we realized that with a infrastructure issue we had on the southeast side of the city.
Yes.
And so that is part of the new strategic effort with our new emergency manager to help us get better in small localized disasters and recovery.
Yes, smaller and faster recovery for things that don't fit into other categories. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Seeing no other discussion, thank you, Chief.
All right, thank you.
Great presentation. And the final item on our agenda, I'm going to, unless I hear an objection, adjourn that because we're bleeding people and in the interest of time and to allow for discussion. But I do urge you all to take the brief overview you've got. Essentially, we're going to have I want to be able to have discussion about the possibility of having a very narrowly tailored noise ordinance that allows for less disruption and I hope more privacy around healthcare facilities. But we can have that discussion at our next meeting. Thank you. The meeting's adjourned.
Oh, can we ask for a continuation? So can we move that to the next meeting?
The CIT.
The CIT, continuation on that?
CIT.
Have more conversation
In addition
on
to the
that.
noise ordinance, he's asking for us to bring back the CIT training.
Seemed
for more
like people had more
discussion.
comments on that.
Oh, sure. Yeah. no
Okay,
problem.
thank you.
Thanks.